Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this basic dog sweater in flat knitting. Let's get started. Please check my description box for all the details. I got a request today. She wants me to knit yarn inspiration dog sweater, the picture right there. But I didn't use their pattern. The pattern is my original. I will put their website for just in case if you want to knit their pattern. The concept of this sweater is knitting in flat. So as you can see, there's the snap button on the side. I pretty much knitted it in flat. I should knit in flat for neck rib as well, but I cheated. I knit around. Another word, either way, if you like knitting in round, you can do that. And if you don't like knitting in round, just knit in flat, and then whenever it's done, just sew them together and make it, the round neck. Then after the neck, the knitting flat kicks in. First of all, knit back piece, just back and forth, then front piece. After front piece, around the underneath of the dog's armpit, you connect one side right there. I connected, and the other side I didn't connect it. So after that, you just knit back and forth, front and back, and whenever you're done for tummy, just knit back piece only again. Then for the rib, you connect tummy and back again, then still knitting in flat. Okay, so knitting flat but no seamless, which I love. I was talking to my friend and she says a lot of people struggle knitting around, especially with the magic loop technique. So when I got this request, I thought about it and okay, maybe I should, knit sweater in flat. So thank you very much for, the whoever, gives me, challenge and request. And then now, whoever struggle knitting in round, you can actually knit for dog sweater. So let's start it. In this project, I use number 3 little thinner yarn than usual. Cast on multiple of 6. I made 84. I usually make cast 70 with number 4 DK yarn. This time, a little bit more because I am using thinner needle and yarn. And there's example number I put. Okay, so you have to find out right number. And again, if you don't like knitting around, you knit flat. But I knit in round for neck rib. This is right side and wrong side. You're facing to right side, obviously, and then start making rib. Put the begin marker, and the rib should be repeat of knit 1 and purl 1 until your desired length times 2, because I'm going to do double neck this time. If you don't like the double neck, don't worry about it. Just, make a rib until your desired length. On the first row, you just have to repeat knit 1 and purl 1, and then from the second row, just knit over knit stitch, purl over purl stitch, especially if you're knitting in flat. You just have to see which stitch you're knitting. Okay, if you're knitting in round, pretty much same. And every fourth row I change the color. It's up to you. I thought I should give little texture. There you go. I knit 3 rows with orange and now yellow. And I want to actually tell you one thing. If you're knitting in round and changing the color like this, there's always, jog around the begin marker. And I am going to tell you how to avoid the jog. Well, I should say how to minimize the jog. What you have to do, change the color and knit 1 round just before you start knitting second row with the color, this time yellow. You gotta do some trick to minimize the jog. I'll show you. I knit almost 1 round with yellow. Here comes end of the first row. 2 more stitch to go, right? Those 2 stitch you just have to knit. Okay, I'll show you right here. Can you see? The green comes around and little, the jog there. Because I didn't use that trick. I was lazy. And here and there, I used that trick. So here and there, it's kind of minimized the jog, but if I'm lazy and I didn't use the, technique, there's a big jog. Anyway, so knit 2 with, knit 1 and purl 1 because, the rib, right? The last 2. And then second row comes. So slide the begin marker and the first stitch is knit, okay? The 1 stitch below, which is orange, previous row, pick up that stitch like that and hook onto left needle. There you go. Always 2 different color because this is the second row, right? Orange and yellow, which you just knit. Now you do knit 2 together. There you go. This is it. And this is second row of yellow, right? Comes around. When you're going to third row, you're not going to do it, okay? Every time you change the color and you knit 1 round, and then before you go into the second row, you do this trick. That's it. So I'll show you one more time whenever I change to orange color again. All right? And it doesn't really show right now, but it will. There you go. I knit with yellow yarn 3 times and now orange. I didn't cut the yarn, so just, pick up the yarn and start knitting. So this is first row of orange. So I'm not going to do anything, just knitting 1 round. And by the way, if you're knitting in flat, you don't have to worry about this technique because you're knitting flat. Okay? And one more thing, I just told you that I'm going to do double neck. double neck is this. Okay, knit example 4-inch and fold it. So fold in half, so the height should be half of whatever you knit. So if you don't like the double neck, you don't have to, you know. There you go. This is end of the orange first row. And then now I am going to start knitting second row. And there we go. Pick up the previous stitch like that. Should be different color of yarn. There we go. And hook onto left needle. Then now yellow and orange knit together. That's about it. And then keep making red. So knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. So let's talk about double neck. I knitted it about little less than 4-inch, little more than 3.5-inch. And I'm not going to use yellow yarn. I only use orange to do double neck. So I cut the, yarn for yellow. And before we start, I would like to talk about for someone who is knitting in flat. As I told you, I knitted it in round for the neck, but if you're knitting back and forth in flat, first of all, I want you to make it two. You have to sew both ends to make it, round. Don't worry, after this, I'm not going to knit round. And to make the double neck, you have to fold in half. And I'm going to show you how to do, how to make the double neck with knitting. But if you don't like my way, you can sew them around, but leave the stitch on the needle, okay? And if you decide you're sewing, you can do this anytime. Maybe end of the all the body done. But if you decide you want to do my way, you have to do it now. All right? So finish the rib. There you go. And biggie marker I will remove for a little while, just a temporary. So first stitch should be knit stitch, right? So remember that and fold in half like that. And knit stitch front, back stitch, obviously purl. And then go straight down the first stitch. Then picking up end of that, stitch. There we go. And hook onto left needle. Then bottom stitch and first stitch knit together because this is knitting stitch on right side. There we go. So now first stitch, you put them together. Now second stitch is purl, back side knit. So next to the the stitch, you're picking up like that. And this is purl stitch on the right side. So make purl two together. I'm sorry it's hard to see right now, here and there, but just hang in there. once you pick up the first stitch, it's easy. You just go next and next and next, but make sure it has to be straight down. You don't want to kind of twist and then, put them together. There you go. So knit two together, because this is, knit one and purl one, rib. So next should be purl, and next should be, and at the bottom of the knit stitch on the wrong side. There we go. And purl two together. So you just have to, do this around. You just have to take your time. That's about it. It's kind of awkward, but it's beautiful. No raw edge and stuff like that. But if you don't mind, raw edge, just knit as is. You don't really have to do this. Okay? And again, if you want to sew them, you can pretty much do anytime. Here comes, I'm done. It's beautiful. And after double neck, knit 2 rows. However, I want you to set up the marker while you're knitting first row. I want you to add some markers for back piece and front piece. That's about it. Okay, I'm start knitting around. I already, did the math for, back and front. Super easy. My whole stitch count is 84. So first of all, 84 divided by 6. Well, the cast was multiple of 6, so you can divide by 6. So my magic number is 84 divided by 6 is 14. Back piece should be magic number times 3.5. For me, 14 times 3.5 is 49. This is the stitch count for my back. And leg, only 5 stitch each. So total is 10 stitch because 2 legs. Then front piece, the rest of the stitch. So whole stitch minus back piece and both legs. So 84 minus 59, because 49 plus 10 is, 59, right? So 25. So front piece is only 25. This is how you figured it out. And all those math is in my description box. So please check my description box. Let's go through together. First of all, starting back piece. My back piece stitch count is 49, and I'm gonna divide 3 sections. Garter stitch, mid part, and then garter stitch. So knit 5 and add 1 marker. GM means garter marker. So first 5 and last 5 always knit stitch, even though right side, wrong side. It doesn't really matter. Always knit and add marker. And next 39 stitch, all knit. Because again, my back piece should be 49. However, I am going to add 1 more marker here, and please forget about this. I was trying to show you where I am going to increase later on. So I thought I should maybe put, other marker. So maybe it's easier for you to see, but it didn't really matter. So forget about that yellow marker. So anyway, after the garter marker, knit 39. And then add 1 marker. After you knit 39. Well, from the start, that's got to be 44. You know what I'm saying? Because, you need 5 before the 39. So, and again, I put the yellow marker for increasing marker, but again, forget it. Okay, that maybe confuses you. So only 2 marker for the back piece, which is this one, the white marker. After the white marker, knit 5. This is the garter stitch. Okay, there we go. This is the back piece for me, 49, which is magic number times 3.5. Okay, and after the back piece, there's gotta be leg part. I'm actually telling you this is the where I'm gonna increase. Sure, it's good to know, but you don't really need to add increasing marker. Anyway, so after the back piece, leg kicks in. And then I'm not going to add sleeves, so I am going to bind off. According to my, math, the leg stitch should be 5, so I am going to bind off 5 stitch here, which is just, knit 2 and then bind off. Make sure you're, binding 5 stitch off. Okay, so knit 1 and 2, then bind off. By the way, the stitch number for each section, back, front, and legs, you can adjust numbers because, every dog has different shape. Even if it's the same, breed, let's say my, Yorkshire Terrier, he's actually quite big for Yorkie, 11 pound, quite big, right? So, some dog has bigger, chest like a French bulldog, English bulldog, greyhound, Great Dane. I don't know anybody who wants to knit for Great Dane because that's gonna be much bigger than my size. Anyway, so you can, adjust here and there if you want. Okay? Anyway, I guess I'm doing 5th bind off. There we go. So I did back piece and then 5 bind off. That's the leg. And I knit next 25. I'm not gonna worry about the the front piece now yet because I am going to knit back piece first. So just knit front piece straight, and then I put the marker for just in case because I don't want to make a mistake. So next 5, the other side of the leg. So don't bind off for the front piece stitch. So this time you have to knit 2 first and then first bind off. You gotta be very careful. The which stitch has to be bind off, right? So make sure 5 stitch I am going to bind off. After this should be your back to begin marker. I didn't actually add the begin marker, but that's the the end of it. There you go. There's 1 stitch left, but I just did the 4th bind off. So where is the 5th bind off? You need 1 stitch from the back piece at the very first stitch right there. This is belong to back piece, but you need to knit 1, then bind off. There you go. and the last stitch belong to back piece. There you go. And I add 4 other markers for lace design. You have to count evenly, from both ends, and you add markers. And you need 8 stitch for lace design, each section, okay? And I guess I counted like 3 from the garter marker. And then add lace design marker. Now I'm going to knit back piece in flat. Just leave the front piece for now. I am going to knit back and forth for the back piece with lace design. If you don't want to, make the lace design, don't worry about it. Just skip. You can just, knit stockinette stitch back and forth, back and forth. And some people think, what is that pink yarn I'm actually holding? That's just a security line. I wasn't quite sure I liked the lace design or not, and I was thinking I maybe change the design, so I put the security line. So, don't even think about that pink yarn. Okay, I'm not using pink yarn. That's a scrap yarn. Anyway, let's start. Again, first 5 and last 5, always knit stitch, okay, because the garter stitch. Otherwise, the both ends curled up. I don't like it. The stockinette knit, which is, the knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side, it curled. So I'm gonna use the garter stitch first 5 and last 5 always. So I'm not going to talk about it. And now I want to increase. All right. So increase the right side, knit 1. Always knit 1 first, right after the garter stitch. And then let's increase. Make 1 right. Pick up the running thread like that and hook onto left needle. V shape out front. There's a V shape out front. See, I put the yellow marker, so it's really hard to see. That was kind of, dumb idea for me. Sorry about that. So, and then I just did the make 1 right, then knit until lace design. Another increasing is the other side. So let's talk about it. First of all, let's do lace design row number 1. Right side, knit 1 to start, then repeat off, knit 2 together, then yarn over. I said yarn front because I want you to make sure yarn has to be front. So knit 2 together, yarn front 3 times. Okay, and knit 2 together. This is last knit 2 together. Just take your time. Because I'm using, the thinner yarn, it was really hard for me. Anyway, knit 2 together and then yarn front. I just did 3 times, then knit 1. Yarn has to be front, okay, and knit 1. This is the lace design row number 1. Then in between lace design, all knit stockinette, which is knit on the right side. And then let's do the other side of the, lace design and increase. There we go. Knit 1 and again repeat all, knit 2 together and then yarn over. Yarn must be front and then knit 2 together. Knit 2 together, which means decrease 1 and then yarn over, which is increase 1. So, the stitch count always 8. Okay? There we go. Then knit until 1 last stitch. Again, there's the yellow marker I shouldn't have done this, but anyway, I did it. So there you go. One last stitch before the garter marker, right? Before one stitch, you make increasing stitch using make one left technique, picking up the running thread again and hook onto the left needle, but the V shape should be at the back. So the way you picking up the running thread is different. Make one right and make one left. Then knit one there, then knit one last stitch, then slide the marker, and after the slide the marker there's 5 stitch and knit 5, right? Because garter stitch, I don't want to talk about it all the time, but I probably will anyway. So I increase 2 stitches total in this row, okay, at the very beginning and at the very end, okay, inside of the the garter marker. And then you need to increase 2 stitch total every 4 rows. Okay, so first row increase, and second, third, fourth, you don't increase. And then you go back to first row and you increase. Because this lace design complete on row number 4. So every, the lace design row number 1, you have to increase. That's how you remember, okay? Anyway, doing the row number 2 wrong side, all purl except first 5 and last 5 garter stitch. So I didn't even write it down. Please remember. And after you slide the garter marker, all purl. And I just want to show you what it looks like, wherever you did the yarn front. Because if you're a beginner, sometimes, you thought you made a mistake, but there you go. That's the yarn over, yarn in previous row. So that's not mistake, okay? You just make a purl. There you go. That's the one. So except the first and last 5 stitch, all purl. Here comes lace row number 3, right side. I'm just showing just the, lace design, pattern. And I'm doing, the garter stitch. You can't even see. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot about, the where I should be. But don't worry, I am going to show you a little bit better soon. There you go. The green marker is the lace design marker, right? So slide the marker. And then this time knit 2. Then knit 2 together and yarn over 2 times instead of 3 times. You already know what to do, right? By the way, row number 3, I didn't increase the stitch. I told you increasing is always when you do lace row design number 1, right? So this is row number 3, so I didn't increase any stitch. And then row number 4, which is wrong side, again, all purl. And as you can see, you just have to repeat row number 1 and row number 4 until your desired length. Desired length means, I'll show you later. Anyway, I want to show you one more time how to do increase. Okay? So there you go. After the garter marker, knit 1. This is right side, okay? And then picking up the running thread, hook onto left needle, V shape out front, and knit front loop. This is make 1 right, because right side of the edge, right? And then knit, and this is the increasing row number 1. So you do the lacing design and all the way down. And let's do make 1 left one more time. Knit until one last stitch this time, right? The other side, different way. This time, knit until one last stitch. There you go. And then let's do make 1 left. Picking up the running thread and hook onto left needle and back loop, you knit 1. Then knit last one. Slide the garter marker and then knit 5 stitch. Again, increasing is whenever you do lacing design row number 1, which is right side, you will increase. All right, and now I want to talk about leash opening. I am going to use 1 row buttonhole technique. There you go. This is the lace design. Isn't it beautiful? I really like it. And now let's do leash opening. I add orange marker, and there's gotta be 10 stitch in between. It's really up to you, how many stitch you wanna, use for the leash opening. For me, 10. There you go. So I, knit whatever and then remove the leash opening marker and yarn front. Yarn front. Okay, then slip 1 purlwise. Then next, repeat all, yarn back, slip 1 purlwise again, and then PSSO, which is pass, slip, stitch over. There you go. Then yarn still at the back, good. Slip 1 purlwise and PSSO. You have to repeat 10 times for me. For you, I don't know. Whatever your stitch count, your desire, stitch count, you want to make the, leash opening. For me, 10 stitch, so I am going to do 10 stitch. Same thing. Slip 1 and then PSSO. Slip 1, PSSO. It's a little bit tight, so take your time slowly and make sure you count. There you go, almost there. I need to, bind off one more stitch. So remove the marker and slip the one stitch, then PSSO. That's the 10th bind off. All right, and this stitch belongs to left needle because that's not the leash opening stitch. So I transfer 1 and then turn the work. There you go. This is wrong side. Now let's add new cast. This is cable cast on. And I bind off 10. Now I am going to add 11 cast. So the whatever your bind off number plus 1 extra stitch you have to create now. So first 2 stitch, you put the needle in between and then knit 1. Okay? Pull the yarn and then grab the yarn like this. And before you pull the working yarn, put the needle in between first 2 stitch and then knit 1. Just take your time and pull the yarn really long, so much easier for you to grab the stitch with left needle like that. There you go. Put the needle in and then knit 1 there. And pull the yarn like this, so much easier to grab the stitch with left needle. And whenever you put the needle in, okay, don't pull the working yarn, because whenever you pull the working yarn so hard, it's really hard to put needle back in. Again, whatever your the bind off stitch number plus 1 additional cast you have to do. For me, I add 11 new cast because I bind off 10, right? So this is gonna be my last stitch, I believe. No, I guess not. There you go. I think now 11. There you go. So after that, turn the work. Now you're back on right side. Working yarn has to be at the back and slip 1 stitch which you actually transfer back and PSSO with that stitch. And then transfer that stitch back onto left needle again, because this last stitch belonged to left needle. There you go. You did it. And then keep knitting rest of the the back piece. That's it. You already make the the leash opening. This is 1 row buttonhole technique. There you go. I keep knitting after that. There's the leash opening, and as you can see, slowly increasing. And I stop right there. So I cut the yarn. When to stop? That both ends, kind of, reach dog's armpit. That's the time you stop. Okay? This goes around underneath of the dog, leg. And then let's do the front piece. Same rule. First 5 and last 5 always knit on right side and wrong side, and everything else knit on right side and purl on wrong side. And then increasing is every 4 rows. So row number 1 knit, row number 2 purl, row number 3 knit, and row number 4 purl. Then you come back to row number 1. Increase, which is knit 1, then make 1 right, because right side. So hook on, then V shape out front, then front loop, you make knit there. And then knit rest of them until last one, stitch before the marker, the garter marker, which is orange this time. There you go. And let's do the make 1 left. So the picking up the running thread is a little bit different way, right? And then using the back loop, knit 1 there. I just increased the 1 stitch. There you go. And knit 5. Again, every 4 rows, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, and then come back to number 1, row number 1. And then every time, you knit row number 1, you increase. That's it. And increasing is always, always on the right side because it's easier. And I want to talk about when to stop. The front piece and back piece, I did same rows, okay? However, again, different shape, different, breed, chubby, skinny, stuff like that. Every dog different, right? So you can actually knit, the front piece longer than back or the other way around. Any shape you want. Number one rule is comfortable shape for your dog. So for me, this time I knit, same length, same rows for back and front. And there you go. This is what it's like. I knit both side, back and front, same rows. And then, the edge, the corner meets behind a dog's leg. And whenever you decide, okay, this is the time, no more increasing. However, again, if your dog is a little chubbier, you can actually, adjust the numbers. For me, when I connect, I didn't add any stitch, just straight, but you can add few more stitch if you want. Anyway, I'm gonna stop increasing and then I am going to connect, with front piece one side, but I have to connect right side. Well, I don't have to, but I would like to connect, on right side, which is knitting side, because it's a little bit easier for me. So first of all, you have to decide which side you want to connect. Well, for me, I'm gonna start with back piece. So the I'm gonna knit all the way back piece, then connect. So, the other side, I am going to connect. Okay, so knit right side all the way down. You don't have to increase anymore. So, well, if you want, you can increase, depend on your dog, right? So, for me, that's enough. My dog, very skinny, especially around the tummy. So, I did knit back piece, and now how to connect? Just keep knitting with same working yarn. Again, if your dog is little chubbier, you can add few stitch like this. 1, 2, and then connect. So there's more room, right? For me, I am not going to do this. And one more thing I have to tell you, if you add few cast in between front and back, you have to add, same stitch number for the other side. Otherwise, the balance is kind of awkward. Okay? For me, no more increasing, so I didn't add any cast. I just keep knitting with same working yarn. That's it. And it looks a little bit loose at first, but whenever you're knitting more rows, it will kind of stay close, so don't worry about it. Anyway, so knit across the front piece, and then you have to do one thing. This side I'm not connecting because the concept of this sweater is knitting flat, right? However, I have to do over wrap. this side because I am going to add the snap button. So I need space for snap button. So I add full cast here. This full cast is for snap button. All right. And then turn around. You can actually connect the other side and, knit in round too if you want. Anyway, turn around. This is wrong side. And I'm knitting these new cast because this is part of the garter, stitch. So knit on the right and wrong, both side. And after this, no more increasing for me. So just knit back and forth until your desired length for the tummy. Because tummy, I usually, stop earlier than, back piece because, dog has to pee. And I don't want, sweater to get wet, right? So I'm gonna stop quite short, right? Because, well, at least 1 inch, before the PP area because I am going to add rib on the edge. Otherwise, it will curl up, right? So you have to make sure about the length. Don't knit all the way down, right? So just keep knitting. There you go. And the lace design, you still have to, do that too. There you go. That's the connection part. And the other side, I add 4 new cast. That's for the snap button. Again, if you add, extra new cast for connection part, the other side, you have to add same stitch number plus this 4 new cast for the button. So you have to remember the other side, which is not the connected side, it's gonna be overwrap. So you need little bit space for overwrapping part, which is 4, stitch for me. If you wanna use the big snap button, you need to maybe add a little bit more, like 6 or 7. It's really up to you. I'm using small one, so 4 stitches enough. So let's see how it goes. There you go. I kept knitting and I believe, I had enough. But before, I finish, I decide I'm gonna, decrease some stitch because again, my dog tummy area is quite skinny. So if you want to decrease for some reason, you can use the knit two together technique. And I want you to decrease stitches evenly. So I want you to, kind of divide evenly and put the marker like I did, and then knit two together to decrease the stitch evenly. You know what I'm saying? And then I made a mistake. I just knit two together and I remove, and then I was gonna, knit one, but, just be careful, decrease evenly. And this is right side. That's why I did the, knit two together technique. But if you want to decrease a little bit more on the wrong side, you can, use the purl two together technique. Here it comes. Just start make purl, and whenever the marker is, I want to, decrease the stitch, right? So purl two together. Simple. That's it, So either way, if you want to, decrease some stitch for tummy, like my dog, use the knit two together or purl two together technique. There you go. So I think I knit enough for tummy, which is about 8 inch from the bottom of the neck. And back piece, not enough, right? So I am going to knit only for back piece now. And I am going to start decreasing both ends of back piece. But the both ends, which means this side is already connected, so halfway of the garter. So the in between those garter stitch marker, there's gonna be 10 stitch. So halfway for me, 5 stitch, right? So I add another marker to make sure divide by, the front and back again, right? Because now I am not going to add any more rows for tummy, just for the back piece, and then start decreasing both side. But for now, I am going to add a little bit more length for the back piece. So just knit back and forth until your desired length. Okay, and whenever you feel okay, this is enough, I have to start decreasing, then you can decrease. So you cannot have some kind of the idea, how many rows you want to add for decreasing, right? So make sure about it, please. And decreasing always on right side. So whenever you decide you want to start decreasing both edge, you have to start on right side. And the yarn spilation dog sweater, they just knit straight, and they didn't, do the, decreasing on the edge or anything. And, the sweater they knit, they completely knit individually, front and back, and then add button and then, connect together with the button. For me, it's a little bit different. Well, quite, big difference. Anyway, it's really up to you. If you like their pattern, sure, go ahead. Now, I am going to decrease both ends. I like the shape. So, again, the garter stitch, just knit the garter stitch. Never change. Always knit 5. And then decreasing is after the garter stitch. After the garter. Guess I had little, stitch. I think I spread the stitch in previous row, so I fix it. So finish the garter stitch, then slide the garter stitch marker and knit 1. Then SSK. Slip, slip, knit. SSK. To decrease 1 stitch. And then knit until 3 stitch before the, marker. And keep knitting whatever the row for lace design. And knit until last 3 stitch before the marker. And then this time, knit 2 together first and then knit 1. You decrease 1. Knit 2 together and then knit 1 stitch, slide the garter stitch marker and knit 5. Turn around and decreasing row number 2 is all purl except the garter stitch, and repeat rule number 1 and rule number 2 until your desired length. There we go. It's really hard to see, but I decrease quite a bit, and then I knit, quite a bit. There we go. Can you see the decreasing line? And I believe this is it. And whenever you knit enough length for back, now I am going to connect back again and make a rib. So cut the yarn because the starting point will change. I want you to think this is just a one sweater. Okay, so first of all, the connected side. I want you to count the garter line. That's the bottom, right? So I count about 10. 10th from the bottom, it will connect it with the front piece, just like that, right? Which means the other side, not connected side, same thing. Count 10 for me. And right there, the marker area has to attach to front piece. But I'm not connected. I'm not, going to connect either. But that's how you think. So let me tell you, if it's coming from the front, the rib starts right there, all the way down, right there, the side as well, and then bottom, then goes up to the marker, right? If this is just a one sweater, but it's not connected, so starting from that point and knit up, then after the knit up on the side, back piece, the other side of piece, and then front. That's how you actually start, which means the starting point will change. There we go. So from the marker, there's no stitch. So you have to knit up. And I'm not starting rib, so the knit stitch is all good. So knit up, and then you have to count how many stitch you knit up on the side, because the other side you don't have stitch either, right? But front and back you still have a original stitch, so you don't have to count those front and back. But on the side where there's no stitch, you have to count. It doesn't really matter, if one or two stitches different, right? You're not going to worry about that, but you just want to balance it out. So I believe I knit up around 10 stitch during the 10 rows of the garter stitch. It was actually easy to knit up because there is the garter lines, right? So I kind of have easy idea where should I knit up. There we go. So knit up at the bottom until the bottom of the sweater. And if you think this is enough, start knitting back piece. And no more design for me, because this is kind of preparation row for the rib, right? So I just knit all the way. And if you want, you can take markers out. I kept it for just in case. I wasn't quite sure, but there you go. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to use the pattern anymore. Just knit straight. So knit, knit, knit until the other side, where there's no more stitch. and then you have to knit up again, just like, this side right there. And here comes, this is last, the other side of the garter stitch, right, for back piece. And before you go on to the front piece, there's a place, there's no stitch anymore. So pull the needle out, because that'll be easier to knit up. Then knit up again. Again, I knit up around 10 stitches. Again, if one or two stitches difference, it doesn't really matter. But, three or more, it does matter. Looks a little bit, well, it doesn't look that bad, but, there you go. Knit up until the bottom of the front piece, then knit all the way down. But again, you will not connect the other side. The concept of the sweater is knit in flat. So whenever you finish the front piece, you have to turn the work. So this is the garter stitch, right? For additional garter stitch. Do you remember? Because of the button later. And then one more row to go before the rib. So this is wrong side. I want you to do purl, all purl. Forget about the garter stitch. This is preparation for rib. So all purl across. And from the right side, I am going to start making rib. There you go. The reason why I did the all purl, because in previous row you just knit up, few stitch both sides, right? So I kind of want to, make a purl, and then, want to start rib next row. So the rib should be repeat all, knit one and purl one until your desired length. I did about 1 inch. So this is the reason why you have to stop knitting for tummy at least, 1 or 1.5 inch before, because you will add rib, right? So you have to think ahead, okay, this is a little bigger dog, so I'm gonna maybe add 1.5 inch or 2 inch for rib. So this is the time I have to stop, something like that. And after I add 1 inch of rib, I did cast off. And I didn't actually use the stretchy, cast off, because this was actually big enough for my dog. So it's already, loose, lots of, the space. So just a regular cast off. And after the cast off, one more job to go, which is button. There we go. I use the snap button. You can do regular button too, but if that's the case, you have to make the buttonhole. And I didn't want to make the buttonhole, that's why I decide to add snap button. And make sure where you want to put the button, right? So I usually do both side, 1 and 2, both ends, and then mid part, kind of evenly. So I add 4. First, both ends, and then mid part. And use the, regular needle and thread and double thread because this is not the fabric, right? Make sure you have to stay the button. So the first, you have to pull the needle through those 2 threads. So it won't, it will stay. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, just a regular, way to, put the button. That's about it, right? But make sure it's secured. And after you put the button this side, like this, I add already 4, right? Make sure, there you go, where, the button comes on the other side. Then you will add button and, again, make sure it's secure and the right location. That's about it. There you go. So it's done for snap button for the front piece and back piece. Again, you know where to put the button, right? I add 4 new cast on the side of the front piece. That's the where you add button. There you go. So it's kind of the overwrapping, but it shows 10 garter stitch both sides. There you go. So this is very easy to put it on your dog. I like it, It's a little bit different, than yarn spination, dog sweater, but looks a little bit like it, and I really like my pattern. All right, bye for now. Enjoy knitting.